Greetings students, scholars, and curious viewers. This is Mr. SKT, otherwise known as the Super Kuroishi teacher. In today's lesson, we are going to be doing the next type of algebraic equations that I call the multi-step equations. So multi-step equations are just another way of saying equations that require more than one step to do them. Unlike our previous ones, which really require one step of working, these ones require more. So here's one example. 2x plus 4 equals 18. And of course, the instruction is to solve for the unknown x. So the main gripe that most people have with these ones is, which one do you start with? Because to do multi-step equations, it's just the same principles as the one-step equations. Keep the variable on one side and then move everything else, move every number onto the other side. Isolate that variable, and when you move something over the equal sign, it will become its opposite. But what do you do first? Do you move the multiplication by 2 first, or do you move the addition by 4 first? Well, I have a little saying about equations. Equations are like onions. Do you know why? If you want to know why, let's ask the man himself. Hey Shrek, why are equations like onions?
Like onions. They stink? Yes. No. Oh, they make you cry? No. Oh, you leave them out in the sun, they get all brown, start sprouting little white hair? No. Layers.
Thank you. Exactly. Exactly. Equations are like onions because they have layers. You want to go, and to get to the nice core of an onion, you want to go from the outside in. So you want to start with what is the most outside from the x, which in this case is the plus 4. So what we're going to do, we're going to move the plus 4 over to the other side first. When the plus 4 moves over the equal sign, plus 4 becomes minus 4. So that's going to be 2x equals 18 minus 4, which is 14. And after that, we can then move the 2 over to the other side. That 2 was multiplying by the x. So multiplication by 2 on one side becomes division by 2 on the other side. That's meaning x is equal to 7. And just to check, 2 times 7, 14. 14 plus 4 gives you your original 18. So it works. However, so that's pretty much an example of how to do a multi-step equation. Now, some of you may have noticed, or now you're seeing for the first time, I put bed mass in the top right of the page here. And you might be asking, why do I have bed mass here? Well, aside from doing the onions analogy that I just used, there is another way of knowing what goes first in a multi-step equation. You use bed mass. But then, sir, you may be thinking, you did the addition first before moving the multiplication. Yes, I'm getting to that. You see, you're not doing bed mass forwards, you're moving bed mass backwards. In other words, you're starting with any addition and subtraction first, then going on to your multiplication and division, then moving exponents, and then you're dealing with brackets. Just like how we did over here. We moved the addition first, and then we moved the multiplication. Opposite of what we normally do, the opposite order of what normal bed mass does. And that's a little math hack that I came up with for the order of which ones to do in a multi-step equation. So let's do a couple more examples. Let's do a few more, because I'm pretty sure you want to see a few more. Right. Can I light better? Right. Let's try this one. I've taken the same concept, but I'm adding a bracket into it. So we have 2 into x plus 4 equals 18. Now, there are 2 ways in which you could actually solve for this. If some of you are thinking 2 into that bracket means distributive law, then yes, you can use distributive law. So you can do 2 times that bracket. So you get 2 times x, which is 2x, plus 2 times 4, which is 8, equals 18. So you have 2x plus 8 equals 18. You move this one, then you move the plus 8 first. And that one will become minus 8. So you got 2x equals 18 minus 8, which is 10. And then move the 2 over. Multiplication by 2 on one side becomes division by 2 on the other side. X equals 10 divided by 2, which is 5. Alternately, there is another way you could do this. So we have our 2 into x plus 4 equals 18 like normal. What you could, instead of distributive law, this is, by the way, just another way you could do this. You could also move the 2 first. Because remember, this can be read as 2 times the bracket x plus 4. So there's nothing wrong with you actually moving the 2 first. And reverse BEDMAS, as I will be referring to it from now on, will allow you to do to move the multiplication before the brackets. So you can move the 2 over. Multiplication by 2 on one side becomes division by 2 on the other. And in moving that 2, you actually break the brackets. So you can just write normal x plus 4, which equals 18 divided by 2, which is 9. And then you can move the 4 over to the other side. Positive 4 on one side becomes minus 4. X equals 9 minus 4, which is 5. Notice anything? Two methods, same answer. So that means either one that you wish to do in the examination or test would be absolutely correct. All right. So that's a little. Let's work with some more to get a feel for what to do with like the other exponent, the other operations. So let's do x over 5 minus 10 equals negative 25. Yes, I too noticed a alarming lack of negatives in the previous video. So I decided to add some. So x over 5 minus 10 equals negative 25. Which one do we move first? You can go with the layers and go with which is the most outside, or you can go with reverse BEDMAS. There you have division happening and you have subtraction happening. Reverse BEDMAS, what comes first? The subtraction. So move that negative 10 first. So you end up with x over 5 equals a negative 25. Negative 10 on one side becomes positive 10 on the other. So x over 5 becomes negative 25 plus 10, which is negative 15. And then you can move that 5 onto the other side. Division by 5 on one side, the opposite of division is multiplication. So x equals negative 15 times 5, which is negative 75. And then I also set up another, and then I also throw up another variation. Oh, almost forgot. 10 x minus 10 over 5 equals negative 25. So what do you move first over here? You have to move this division by 5 over to the other side first. Why would you do that when there's subtraction, when there's subtraction and division happening, why would you do it this time? Well, two reasons. Number one, that division is effectively affecting every other term there. So you would need to move that division first. And also, if you remember your conventions of algebra, this would then technically be in a bracket if you had to write it out in full. So we are technically following reverse BEDMAS. But remember, your equations are like onions. We're working from the outside in. So you move that division by the 5 first, which will turn into a multiplication by 5. So you have x minus 10, which equals negative 25 times 5, which is negative 125. And then you can move that minus 10 over to the other side, which will give you negative 125. Negative 10 becomes a plus 10, which gives you negative 115. One small difference can greatly affect the answer. Let's do maybe a couple more, or two more at least of this kind of difficulty before going up a notch. So let's do 2x squared, which equals 64, and then let's compare that with 2x squared in a bracket equals 64. So working with this one first, so we have a times 2 and a exponent. In BEDMAS, in reverse BEDMAS, what do you think, what comes first? Reverse BEDMAS, the multiplication. So we can move the 2 first. So you end up with x squared equals 64. Multiplication on one side becomes division on the other side. So x squared becomes equal to 64 divided by 2, which is 32. And then you move the square sign. The opposite of squaring is square rooting. And remember, you guys are in high school now. When you square root or find the basically the root of any with the root being any even number, you are now putting plus minuses because there are 2 possible answers. But the answer is positive or negative the square root of 32, which is like positive or negative 5 comma something. Close to 6, but not there yet. And here we have we have 2x in a bracket being squared, and that equals 64. So because this square is affecting everything, and because exponents have an after brackets in a normal BEDMAS, in reverse BEDMAS, exponents will move first. So the opposite of squaring is square rooting. So 2x is equal to positive or negative square root of 64, which means 2x equals positive or negative 8. And then from there, you can just move the 2. Multiplication by 2 on one side means division by 2 on the other. So which means x equals positive or negative 4. Positive or negative 4. Whew. Now let's go on to this one. 2x over 3 minus 2 equals 8. What do you do first? Well, you should know by now, looking at the pattern, especially of ones like this, you gotta move that addition and subtraction first. So move that to the other side. That subtraction by 2 becomes addition by 2. So you get 2x over 3 equals 8 plus 2, which is 10. Now, in normal bed mass and reverse bed mass, division and multiplication happen at the same time. There is no priority. So the decision of which one to move, whether the 2 or the 3, is completely up to you. For me, I personally like getting rid of the denominator first. It's just how I like doing things. You can move the numerator first if you really want to. It should make no difference on the final answer. So I'm going to personally move the 3 first. So division by 3 on one side becomes multiplication. So I end up with 2x equals 10 times 3, which is 30. And then after that, I can move the multiplication by 2. I've been doing a lot of multiplication by 2s during this lesson. And that becomes division by 2, maybe because it's the easiest one to relate to. X equals 30 divided by 2, which is 15. Alright. And that's some of the more simple examples. Now I'm going to show you students 2 a little bit tougher examples. Ones that go a little bit more into the more than one step. So here I'm going to give you this one. And yes, I'm using something other than x. Plus y equals negative. Nod your head at first glance if that looks intimidating. Oh, it should. Well, let me tell you. After this, it's not going to be, because you already know exactly what to do. It's all to do with that. So let's do this. We need to solve for y. We have a multiplication by 3 happening. We have an exponent happening, and we have brackets. So I will put those notifications off just now. And we have a bracket happening. Now, according to reverse bed mass, which of those should happen first? Reverse bed mass, we should deal with the multiplication first. So we are going to move that 3 over first. Multiplication by 3 on one side becomes division by 3 on the other. So you have y plus 1 all cubed equals negative 325 divided by 3, which is negative 125. Now you have bracket and exponent remaining. You, of course, have to move the exponent. The opposite of cube is cube root. So therefore, y plus 1 is equal to the cube root of negative 125, which is negative 5. And from there, just move the negative 1 over. Move the positive 1 over. The opposite of positive 1 is negative 1. So, negative 5 minus another 1, y equals negative 6. And you're done. There, 3 lines. Does it look much easier now? Exactly. As long as you know what to do first, the rest falls into place. Now, let's do something a bit more interesting. a bit more interesting that's math related. Alright. 2x plus 2 plus 3x minus 4 all equals 8. Remember, keep your x's on one side, keep your x's on one side, move your numbers onto the other side. That just like how you did for your one steps and what you've been doing over here, you are doing the same thing here. So those two, that 2x and that 3x, I want you to keep on the left hand side. So it's going to be 2x plus 3x, and that's going to equal 8. That plus 2 over there is going to become minus 2, and that minus 4 is going to become a plus 4. So you end up with 2x plus 3x, which gives you 5x. If you remember, they are like terms. Like terms, you can add them together. And that equals 8 minus 2, which is 6. 6 plus 4 gives you 10. And then finally, get that 5 over the other side. That 5x is 5 times x. So multiplication onto the other side becomes division. X equals 10 divided by 5, which is 2. And then someone actually asked me how to do one like this one. And for that person, I grant you your wish. As I said, comments give me direction of what you want me to cover. We have 2 into y minus 5 plus 4 into 3y plus 1. And all that equals 24. So just do the distributive law. Do the distributive law. Get rid of those brackets, because in this form, brackets are going to be a hindrance. So we are doing the distributive law to get rid of those brackets. So we got 2 into 2 times y, which is 2y, and then 2 times negative 5, which is negative 10. Plus 4 times 3y equals plus 12y, 4 times 3. And then plus 4 times plus 1 is plus 4. Now all of that equals 24. Keep these two here, and these two are going to move house. So you end up with 2y plus 12y on the left hand side, which we are keeping there, equals 24. That negative x is going to turn into a positive. Did I say x? I meant that negative 10 becomes a positive 10. And that positive 4 becomes a negative 4. So you end up with 2y plus 12y, which is 14y, equals 24 plus 10, which is 34. 34 minus 4, which is 30. And then you move that 14 over. So y equals 30 divided by 14, which should be 15 over 7, which is 2 1/7. So which is otherwise 2 and 1 over 7. And if you really want to go further, that would be 2 and 2,14. And that, my students, is pretty much all the examples I can think of regarding the 2-3 multi-step equations. Of course, now I'm going to leave you a little exercise which you can do now. But today's exercise is going to be a little bit different. Let me explain. So today's exercise, the instruction here is that you are going to calculate the value of the unknowns, and then you are going to fill in the correct sign, whether greater than, less than, or equal to, in the box at the end of each pairing. So, for example, the first one I have here, I have 2a plus 3 equals 7 on one side, and I have 2 into 3 plus b plus 3 equals 7 on the other. And you are to find out, is a greater than, less than, or equal to b by filling in the correct sign. So, of course, figuring out what a is equal to and what b is equal to is your first step. And then you are going to be filling in. And let me just give you the slow scroll down and a little zoom out so you can catch all of them. Yes, I changed a few midway. Because some of them worked out better. Some of them worked out better when I made them those values. So my students, this is the exercise I'm going to give you to do. So if you wish to do this by yourself, I'm giving you the chance to pause the video. Please pause so in 3, 2, 1. Okay. With that being said, let us do the correction. So, the first one, we have 2a. I'm going to, by the way, go at my normal speed because by now you should already have your own answers. So, 2a plus 3 equals 7. The 3 goes across, turning it into a minus 3. So that's going to be 2a equals 4, and then the 2 goes across, becoming a divide by 2, a equals 2. And then 2 into b plus 3 equals 7. I am going to move the 2 over first, turning that into a divide by 2. So b plus 3 equals 3.5. Take the 3 over, becomes minus 3. b equals half, or 0.5. So therefore a is greater than b. So the arrow is going to point to b. As a little way of, not so much a way of remembering, but a little way that I remember, the arrow points to the smaller one. That's how I remember it. I know some of you remember from like preschool or wherever that the crocodile eats the bigger one, but I highly disagree with that, because whoever saw that has never seen crocodiles eat. Crocodiles cannot eat things bigger than themselves. In fact, what crocodiles do after drowning their prey is that they initiate what is known as the death roll, by literally spinning the joints and swallowing the whole appendage, whole. Yeah, but yeah, enough about that. Let's continue. I don't know who made up that crocodile thing. Arrows point to the smaller one. Right. So 5c minus 1 all divided by 3. Move the 3 over. Division by 3 becomes multiplication by 3. So that becomes 5c minus 1 equals 24. The minus 1 then moves and becomes a plus 1. So 5c equals 25. And then then move the 5. 25 divided by 5, c equals 5. Here, you have to move the plus 1. You have to move the 1 first. So that's going to be 5d over 3 equals 9. Then you can move the 3 or the 5, whichever, doesn't matter. I move the 3 first because that's how I do things. So that's going to give you 5d equals 27. And then you move the 5, which is 27 divided by 5. d equals 5,4. The c is smaller. 10e squared equals 90. You move the 10 first. So you're going to divide by 10. So you get e squared equals 9. And then you move the square sign. The opposite of square is square root. And since you're dealing with square roots, you're going to get two answers, the positive and negative answer. So E has two answers. It's either positive 3 or negative 3. Then, on the other side, I have 10f all squared equals 900. Move the square sign over first, and that becomes positive negative square root. So 10f is positive or negative 30. And then I move the 10 over, divide by 10, So f is going to be either positive or negative 3. And you notice something. Well, if you put equals between them, that is a valid answer. But what is just as valid, but this is a interesting case where having the other two signs or having either of the two signs can also prove as valid as an equal sign. So here we have a rare case where the equal sign would be the first answer you would choose, which would be a perfect way of thinking, but the less than and the greater than signs are just as correct in this particular case. Okay, root 2g equals 5. Move the root sign over. The opposite of square root is squaring, so 2g equals 25. Then you move the 2, which becomes division by 2. G equals 12.5 or 12.5. 2 times the cube root of h. You have to move the 2 first. So that's going to be 5 divided by 2, which is 2.5. Then you move the cube root. The opposite of cube root is cube. So h is 15,625. G is smaller. 2 into I plus 5 in a bracket, and that all of that is cubed. You move the 2 over first. So that's going to be division by 2, so it's going to be 1,331. Then you move the cube, which becomes cube root. So I plus 5 is going to give you 11. Then you move the 5, so I equals 6. And then 2j minus 5 in a bracket or cubed equals 2,197. Move the cube, it becomes cube root. And as you notice, we're dealing with cube roots, so you don't have to deal with plus and minus. 2j minus 5 equals the cube root of that, which is 13. Move the negative 5, it becomes positive 5. So 2j equals 18. And then move the 2 over, division by 2, j equals 9. J is bigger. 5k minus 3 minus 2k plus 6 all equals 20. Keep the k's on the left-hand side, move the numbers on the right. So you have 5 minus 2k equals 20. Where's my pen? The negative 3 becomes a positive 3 because it crossed the equal sign. And the positive 6 becomes a negative 6 because it also crossed the equal sign. So 5k minus 2k gives you 3k. And that equals 20 plus 3, which is 23, minus 6, which is 17. Therefore, 1k, one normal k, is 17 divided by 3, which is 5,67. Rounding off to 2 decimal places. 4l plus 8 minus 6l minus 2 equals negative 10. Negative 10, yes. I'm adding more negatives to your diet. You should, as math students, you should be ready for any kind of numbers, whether it be fractions, squares of non-squares, and negatives. You should be ready for any of them. Right, keep the L's on the left side, otherwise you're going to take an L. And then move the numbers onto the right. 4L minus 6L equals negative 2L. Negative 10, the plus 8 becomes minus 8, and the negative 2 becomes a positive 2. All of that will give you negative 16. Then you can move the whole, negative 2 over to the other side. Why the whole negative 2 and why does it become division? Because this is negative 2 times L. Moving the whole thing, you are going to turn it into a division by negative 2, meaning L equals 8, which is still big, which is bigger than K. And then finally, number 7. both of them are going to require you to do distributive law. So you need to do distributive law in order to break the brackets, because the brackets are kind of getting in the way. So 3 into the m plus 3 gives you 3m plus 9. And then the 2 into the m plus 2 gives you plus 2m plus 4, or equaling 30. Keep the m's there and move the numbers to the right hand side. 3m plus 2m gives you 5m. 30 minus 9, which is 21. 21 minus 4 gives you 17. Therefore, m is 17 divided by 5, which is 3,4. Negative 2 into n plus 4 gives you negative 2n. Negative 2 times 4 gives you negative 8. Negative 3, I swear I will put that off now. Negative 3 times n will give you negative 3n. Negative 3 times negative 6 gives you positive 18. All of that equaling negative 45. Keep the n's on the left hand side, so you end up with negative 2n minus 3n, which gives you negative 5n. The negative 8 goes across and becomes a positive 8, and the positive 18 becomes a negative 18. All in all, negative 5n will equal negative 55, and therefore n is going to be negative 55 divided by negative 5, which gives you 11, and thus m is smaller than n. And that, for now, is multi-step equations. If you like this video, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, share with your friends, and subscribe. And if you have any other questions, or you want to state what you want to see next, please leave a comment. Hey, I don't even know how to do an outro today. But what I do remember is, with that being said, have a nice day.